I'm a young guy, but I show a large appreciation for things that have come even way before I was even born. To me, when I was younger, there was a large emphasis put on things of quality and not necessarily because they fit the certain time period that we're currently in. And I can't really think of a better example, you know, than vintage Rolex collecting, because the whole emphasis on vintage Rolex collecting is it's so of the past and it's not as immediate to the present as other modern watch collectors would have it be. And so much emphasis placed on kind of time periods and finding the best version from that time period. And it's very zeitgeist. And that emphasis has been placed on me my entire life, you know, drive a 95 Range Rover for the same reason. Not changing things because that's what would be consistent with what the trends are, but leaving them the same because it's the perfect iteration of that true icon, of that true thing, you know? I know that my dad got this in '65. When he went down with his father to a jeweler on 34th Street, you know, this was the last one they had. This was it. Everybody was going crazy because James Bond had just worn one. And that watch is just so special to me. I mean, my grandfather bought it for my dad, and my dad gave it to me. And it's been such a big part of both our lives. You know, it'll go to my kids one day. What's unique about the gilt dial is that if you ever look at some of the 5513s that come later after them, they have white dial, and the gilt is gold. I never got the full story of why they did that. I have no clue. When my dad had this service in 1988, like with every Rolex at the time, they threw out the parts that were worn and they put in new parts. So if you look at this watch too closely, you'll notice that it has service hands from '88, from a later 5513. But the original gilt had gold hands too. Again, I'll never understand why they did this. But they did, and it's just one of those things that Rolex collectors look for. They look for those quirks. Yeah, so this is a '96 Pepsi. I got this one a couple years ago. I was about halfway through college. I'd always wanted the Pepsi because, you know, that same emphasis on things that came before us and the perfect iteration of a design. To me, the Pepsi is that. The whole story of how it was commissioned by Pan Am for their pilots, and how the blue and red and how it's symbolic of night and day, and how it's just such a great color combination. And I can't name a more iconic watch besides the Submariner than a Pepsi GMT. And I had to have one. I love the aluminum bezel. And I just love that one day, you know, it's gonna fade to pink and it's gonna oxidize and it's gonna tell a story of my entire life that came before it. So I really love this watch and, you know, definitely hold on to it forever. You know, this is just the 2011 GMT Master 2 ceramic. I fell in love with this watch when it came out in 2008. You know, a lot of people, the ceramic bezel for a lot of people was such Marmite. At first, people were like, love it or hate it, you know? They were getting rid of the aluminum bezel, which you'll see here, and affectionately the Pepsi and the Coke and the root beer, and all those colors that everybody was affectionate towards, but there was something about the gloss and the sheen of the ceramic and how it always looks the same, regardless of the years. And it will never get the same level of patina, but the fact that it maintains that gloss is almost incredible in and of itself. You know, when you're wearing a watch, anybody could say this is cheesy or whatever you want to feel. You feel a certain way. You take on a certain persona, and kind of nothing like old watches to bring about a persona. When you put on an old Daytona, suddenly you're Paul Newman. You put on an old Submariner, suddenly you're James Bond. You know, you put on a Pepsi, and suddenly you're this Pan Am pilot who's got to go from New York to London under time, and it has to be now. And that same thing happens to me when I get into a car as well. You know, you jump into a Porsche and suddenly you're Walter Roaring, and it's an incredible feeling. So when you match those two and you find that perfect harmony, you know, when you say to yourself, I'm gonna take the 95 Range Rover for a drive today. I think I'm gonna wear something old. I think I'm gonna wear something patinaed because this truck isn't perfect. It has its own unique characteristics and quirks. I think I'll put on the 5513 sub. And it's just that kind of mentality and that kind of trying to create this unique image for yourself and put it together in kind of a seamless way. It's that kind of thing that really, I think, drives the two hobbies together. And it's also the appreciation for anything mechanical. These watches, everybody seems to overlook this so quickly, but these are little machines that have almost an infinite energy source with their automatic movements. It's pretty incredible stuff, and I think cars follow that same kind of logic and that same kind of mechanical perfection, that strive towards mechanical perfection. And to me, that's what it means to appreciate things like this, because it really is just a reminder to slow down. You could drive an old car, and it drives nothing like a new car. It drives so much worse, but it has so much more character, and you begin to appreciate its nature and its identity. And I think that's just so important for understanding watches, understanding people, and making sure that you take the most amount of time that you can in this life to appreciate what's around you, not fall privy to the next thing and moving too quickly far ahead of yourself.